Welcome back to Part 4 of Section 1.1. Now this is something that's not covered in the book, the side-by-side bar graphs, but it's great to know. It's a really good way that you can compare 2 different years or 3 different years or 3 different things in general. And we're going to look at this one. We're looking at educational attainment. And as you can see, in the year 1990 and the year 2003, they took some analysis. And you can see that less than a 9th grade education, there were more people that had less than a 9th grade education in 1990 than the year 2003. And you can kind of see that the trend, it shifts, and it seems that in the year 2003 more people had higher education. So you can get a lot of information from these side-by-sides. And I'd like to quickly go in and show you how to do a side-by-side in Minitab. So we're going to go into course content, into the Minitab examples. And in there we're going to get the data to do a side-by-side bar graph. So I've pulled up the Minitab data, and the first thing you do is you go into the sessions window here, I left click, and I enable the commands, just because I like to have that Minitab prompt. Now in here I want a graph, and I want to do a side-by-side bar graph, so I go bar graph. And in this, my data is given in a table. So I don't want counts of unique values, but I want the values from a table. When that happens, I could either have a stacked or a cluster, and I wanted that cluster. So I hit cluster and hit OK. Now in here, I have to put my data variables in here. So the graphing values, the graph variables are the numbers that we have in the table. So I'm going to put these in here. I'm going to graph them side by side, and the row label is educational attainment. Now, if you're not sure, let's say that you're doing this later on and you should hit OK. Remember, there's no major mistakes here. Let's hit OK, and you're going to see what happens. In Minitab, don't be scared if you don't remember. I mean, just keep clicking around to get what you want. And so we don't want that. We want that side by side. So no, we don't want to keep that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into graph, and you see how easy it is to do this. So we went in a table, side by side, and now you'll go, oh yeah, I remember it was one of these choices. That one didn't work, so it's got to be this one. So when you do that, there you have a very, very nice graph to look at. And again, remember, we'd want to say distribution of educational attainment for the years 1990 to 2013. So you want to make sure that you have that good title in here, and so forth. So you know how to do that. But just wanted to show you how to do a side-by-side and the power that you have in Minitab. So qualitative data can be organized in several ways. Tables, and they're useful for listing the data as its frequency and its relative frequency. You have charts such as bar graphs, Pareto charts. Those are just bar graphs where it has an order from largest to smallest. And pie charts, and they're useful visual methods for organizing data. And then you have those side-by-side bar graphs that are useful for comparing one or more sets of qualitative data. So what I did here is I pulled up real quickly our blood type example, and I got our bar graph, and I just want to show you how you can make that a Pareto. What you do, right click on your thing and you go to graph options, and in the graph options you want to put it in increasing or decreasing Y, and you can make a Pareto chart that way. And that's one way to do that, just quickly to show you that. So now we're going to go into organizing quantitative data. And we have histograms is probably one of the more popular displays. So we're going to organize discrete data in tables and histograms, and then we'll organize continuous data in tables and histograms. We'll learn how to draw stem and leaf plots and identify the shape of a distribution. And then we'll talk about time series plots. Discrete quantitative data can be presented in tables and bar graphs in several of the same ways as qualitative data. Now we'll have our frequency, relative frequency distribution. Those are that table where we list either the frequency or the relative frequency, and then a histogram, which looks like a bar graph, except for the bars touch one another. Data that is numerical meaning, whereas with a categorical data we separate the bars because these are different categories. So we're going to look at our first example. We call it the Wendy's example. And what this is at a certain period of time during the day, during lunchtime, they select 40 random days. And on those 40 days, between the hours of 12 and 12:30, they see how many customers come up to the drive-through window. And so the number of customers we saw was one. In one of the 40 days, we only saw one customer. That only happened once. That's what this chart is telling us. We saw two customers 6 times. So 6 out of the 40 days, we only saw 2 customers come up to the drive-through window from 12 to 12:30. We saw 8 customers come up to the drive-through window 2 out of the 40 days. And if you look here, the largest number of days is 11, so we saw 6 customers between 12 and 12:30, 11 out of the 40 days. Why we would do this is, how should we staff that drive-through window? And really, if you look at this, we probably want to staff it so that it could service between 4 and 7 people. So we can answer the question using the frequency distribution, relative frequency distributions. So what is the most frequently occurring number of customers? Well, for 11 out of the 40 days we saw 6, and that was the most frequent, so 6 would be the answer to that. What percentage of intervals have fewer than 3 customers? So which intervals have 2, 1, or 0? Well, I would just add 15, 0.15, and 0.025 to get the 0.175, and so forth, to answer the other questions. This is looking at the bar graph for the Wendy's example, and we see the frequency and relative frequency bar graph for this example. Now once again, I can go look at the data, and again you have 2 places to find this Minitab data. You can find it both in the course content or the Minitab folder. Either one will have these Minitab examples that I use in these slides. So in here, I'm going to look for the Wendy's example data. So this is the Minitab with the 40 different days and the number of customers that we saw. So with this, if I wanted to do a histogram, I would go to Graphs, go to Histogram, because this is quantitative data. I want a simple histogram, and my graph variable are arrival times, number of customers that arrived in that interval. This is Minitab's default histogram. It's always going to put the hash marks, or the at the midpoint you'll have the number, like the number of customers. And this is fine for discrete data. This is exactly what we want. But generally speaking, we want to see whole numbers on here, not 1.5 customers. We want to see, because there's not like 1.5 people. So what we want to do is, we want to make a histogram where we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can go in here and we can change a few things. Now first of all is the title. and here it would be number of customers. We have good titles there. And now we want to change that scaling here. And we can go. So I go into binning and I actually put them in, and I'll put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now I've got it more of where I wanted, and now I can put the tick marks at each one. Now what I'm doing, I keep hitting and getting the bars. I could change the colors of the bars if I wanted to. So I'm going to go in here and put the position of the ticks at each one. So here I'd have to do 1. And now I'll have a number at each tick mark. And that's what you want, at least that's what I would want when I'm doing this graph. And I could, if I wanted to, add the let's add grid lines and make it look nice. Like I said, you can do many things with these graphs. So that's how we would do our histogram for discrete data. That's going to close it out for part 4, and we will continue with the next one with continuous data.